What's going on, everyone? So I want to start this video by saying, one, I have not seen the series, right? I know that there are some content creators that have already seen the entire season. I am not one of them. I am watching the show at the same pace that you are. Two, I have not read any of the Reddit leaks or anything like that. Nothing, right? Because the reason I wanted to start it that way is so everyone understands that this is just simply my thoughts based on the information we have thus far through the season, right? So just wanted to make that clear because I believe that Jim is going to die. Like, I am incredibly confident that Jim is going to die. I think, because we have 2 episodes left, I think for sure Elgin's a goner. Why do I think Elgin's a goner? Because I think he is doing something bad with good intentions, and I believe that he's going to see that through, and then it's going to end up biting him, potentially, literally, and he's going to end up dying. Fatima, I'm like 50-50 on. I could see Boyd and Ellis saving her. Like, I think she's going to give birth to the baby, because now we found out that there's an actual baby. I believe that she'll give birth to the baby, but I don't know if she'll die, because I could see Boyd and Ellis potentially saving her, and she end up surviving. However, Jim and Elgin are the two I am like 99.999999999% sure are going to die. I don't want to say 100% because you never really know, right? I just don't really like to speak in definitives unless it's something we know for certain, and I don't know for certain. But did a whole video on Elgin and Fatima. Go check that out after this video, of course. But here's why I am confident that Jim is going to die. First off, Jim has served no significance, no purpose, no point other than to just be a nuisance and get in the way at this point, right? Like, Jim, when he first got there, was a very impactful focal point in the story, right? He was the father of the family trying to figure out how to get his family out. He was this engineer. He had these creative ideas. Let's put up the tower, right? Like, you saw what looked to be one of the main characters of this show that was going to continue to evolve and develop. You even see the conspiracy side of him where he almost gets Donna killed, all that stuff, right? There was purpose, there was point, there was story, there was buildup, development to his character. And since then, there has been nothing, particularly this season. He's just kind of been there just to be there, just to kind of float around. And even all of the points of setup have gone nowhere. Like the phone calls that he was getting have gone nowhere. Your children aren't yours anymore have gone nowhere. He's had this disconnect with his family, right? With his children and whatnot. But he's basically just kind of been there for the sake of being there. Another big point is him just getting in the way, right? And I don't mean one for just a writing standpoint, because, I mean, you could argue that too. But I want to keep it strictly the show-based, right? So he is doing nothing but causing chaos and just drama, right? Goes and confronts Jade, which, by the way, Jim is like the most aggressive, non-aggressive person I've ever seen in my life. Like, this dude's so willing to confront everybody and pretend like he's about to go fisticuffs. And then as soon as anybody like challenges him or pushes him, he just like, what? Like, it's the fun. Like, Jade just like was like, all right, let's go. Right. And he just like, it was so like flabbergasted. It was hilarious. I was like, dude, this guy don't want no squabble. Go sit down, relax. Right. But he's getting in the way of Tabitha, who is on a journey, on an adventure to serve her purpose along the way. Jade is doing something similar. And Jim is doing nothing but getting in the way, questioning, confronting, just, again, causing drama and unnecessary just chaos and distraction that Fromville, particularly the boy in white, I could see kind of giving the green light to take him out. Because you got to remember, Ethan and the boy in white are buddies. They're besties. Right? Why didn't Jim die when there was a monster literally feet from him when he was trapped under the house, and everyone else did? Everyone else died in that house except for him. Could it have been the boy in white protected him? Right? Something that I've talked about with Victor. Right? Well, now all of a sudden you're getting in the way of Jade, who he's trying to solve the numbers and stuff like that, help the symbol and get the kids saved and all that stuff. Tabitha, his wife, is trying to figure out her past and trying to solve a bunch of stuff and whatnot and this, that, and the other. And Jim is just in the way. Does the boy in white go, all right, like, like time to get him out the way? Like, doesn't like people getting in the way of the greater good, right? It doesn't like people, like, I mean, look at Sarah and what Sarah was asked and tasked to do. Right? This place wanted to manipulate her and change her and have her get rid of Ethan. Why? Why do you want to kill Ethan? Oh, because he's friends with the boy in white. Right? Getting in the way. Right? Now he's okay, well, if we can't touch him, then we want you to touch him. Right? We want you to go get him. Right? Like, hey, you end up killing your brother, you end up killing Kenny's dad. Right? You have a mission. You have all this stuff. It's just, again, Jim is doing nothing but it just feels like the buildup to good, I'm glad he died. Right? Like, it's almost like they're making Jim the most despised character for a reason. Right? Like, Jim is the guy. Like, Sarah, you kind of felt like you were like, yeah, like, she definitely deserves her just desserts, but it's understandable, right? It's just like, man, and then even like when everyone's just treating her so poorly and so you're just kind of like, but it's not really her fault, right? Like, think of like what this place has done to all these people, right? Like, I know you're frustrated, I know you're mad, but like, look at you kind of can talk yourself into various characters, right? Jim has just been obnoxious, right? Like, this entire season, he's just been obnoxious. He's just arguing and fighting with everybody and just like getting his own way and arguing with his children and his wife and Jade, and it just feels like the buildup for a character that you're getting ready to kill off. We've seen it time and time again with films and shows and all of it, right? Like, character that had a purpose at one point, all of a sudden no longer has purpose, and it's like, okay, do we try to force something, or do we just make people despise him and get rid of him? Right? That's kind of what this feels like to me. Again, I don't know this for certain. It's just my guess. Another big point is, I think if Jim dies, it adds so many new layers to the story. Right? Now you have so many questions on what's the response. Right? Does Tabitha become more obsessed? Does Tabitha become more focused on her mission? Right? Right now, you're seeing Tabitha and you're seeing Julie kind of go on their own separate journeys, right? Does Jim dying end up causing those two to full-fledged go on their own journeys, which then could potentially compromise Ethan, or maybe Ethan finds his journey and he goes on his own journey, right? Like, also, does this kind of put a stop and a hold to everything, right? If Jim dies, does Tabitha kind of go like, now I need to be a mother to my children because I don't have Jim, right? Does she start having the remorse and the regret and just kind of like, this happened because of me? If I wasn't so focused on this and was more focused on my family, maybe Jim would still be here. Right? Like, I think I can see the way Jim dying, I see one of two ways. I see either A, he's wrong place, wrong time, or B, because you saw Henry kind of like give him that pep talk of like, hey, maybe stop thinking your wife's crazy, essentially, that he tries to help and ends up getting himself killed, right? So, like, for example, something that I've talked about with the show is you've seen characters that have significance, characters that have importance can use some of the, amenities of this place, right? Such as, Tabitha, right? She's able to go through the tree and end up where she needs to be. Boyd, right? Julie end up in the little cellar, right? When she's escaping Colony House, right? But you look at somebody like Dale who goes through it, who he thinks he's significant, he thinks he's important, he thinks he's somebody, but he's really not, right? He is just essentially an NPC in this game. And he goes through the tree and ends up embedded in the pool. I could see something like that with Jim, where Jim maybe potentially jumps into the tree with Tabitha, or to go help Tabitha or follow Tabitha or something like that, and he ends up somewhere that ends up leading to his death, right? Like, I could see something along those lines. Like, I either think, like I mentioned, either he's in the wrong place at the wrong time and just ends up, maybe it's a monster, or, you know, maybe it's some new creature, like the town, or not the town, the village. Right? Like, at some point, we got to find out what the village monster is. And Tabitha clearly has a connection to that village. So I could see something where they're at the village and Jim ends up dying. Maybe just he's out with the monster or something. Maybe Tabitha wants to see the monster, right? So she goes out and then Jim goes out and the monster sneaks up and kills him or something, right? Like, I could see something along those lines happening. It just kind of feels like it's building to that point. And I just, based on how this season started, how this season is going, right? There's going to be some deaths. There's going to be some type of just, people are going to die. It's something that even the showrunners talked about heading into this season, that people were going to die, right? Characters that we were loved and beloved, right? And we saw Tien die. Like, how did they start this season? Tien dying. A beloved character that had tie-ins and connections that impacted Kenny and his journey. Well, wouldn't it make sense to kind of end this season with significant death or deaths? Right? And look, I mean, who knows? Maybe it could be several characters, for all I know. I just think out of all the characters and the way that this is building, Jim and Elgin seem to be the two that I'm confident. And, I mean, to be fair, Tilly died too, right? Like, Tilly, you know, depending on how you view her as a character, you could argue has significance, right? She's had significance since she came to Fromville, right? And had connections to Fatima and all that stuff, right? So I just feel like that's the pattern. And I've talked heavily about this show and its patterns. And every time I talk about a pattern, it turns out to be true, right? Even like the baby and stuff, there's a lot that I've talked about that I'm like, hey, the show continuously follows this. So this is probably going to happen more times than not. That's right. I mean, obviously I talk all kinds of theories and ideas and stuff like that, right? And it's not about like, it's more of just fun conversations and stuff. However, there are things that I'm like, no, based on the patterns, this can happen. Those type of videos I'm usually pretty accurate on. And I'm pretty confident about this, about Jim dying. Again, I don't know for certain. I could be completely wrong. I could, you know, or maybe he gets attacked and ends up surviving or something like that. I feel like they are heading to a climax in which Jim is not going to get out. It's my thoughts. But as always, this is a discussion and I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Kind of mix in the middle? Do you think like, nah, no way that they'll kill Jim? They need to keep Jim alive, right? He's a big part of the family. And that dynamic, do you think like, nah, like, yeah, he's definitely a goner, or he seems like he's going to be a goner? Again, however you feel, or whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.